So I've seen this weird thing starting to happen in the Mega community. There are people popping up, not a ton, mind you, but enough that this caught my attention. Basically saying old Articulation Mega, old Mega was the best. They peaked back then and new Articulation is trash. I have had a couple people comment on videos and they're like, new Articulation, garbage. When Mattel bought it and kept expanding the new Articulation system, they ruined it. It was so bad they should have gone back to old Articulation. Which is an odd sentiment to me because I kind of thought, you know, as a community, we kind of all agreed on like new Articulation is pretty awesome. Old Articulation had its charm. You know, I didn't think that was much of a conflict. But apparently there's somewhat of a conflict. So what I wanted to do today is take some old Articulation figures, look at the pros and cons of those, take some new Articulation figures, look at the pros and cons of those, and just kind of compare the two. So this is by no means a proper representation of all of the old Articulation figures available because Mega made so many. But this is just kind of a selection of some of my favorites and some of the ones that I thought were a bit of standouts. So I kind of want to just go through and talk about like the pros and the cons of each. So starting with the pros, almost all of them, at least on the UNSC side, used to come with a wash. This is the Spartan Fest? The Special Edition Chief. And then we also have the Special Edition Elite here. So this dude has a wash. The Elite, not so much. But on top of the wash, a lot of the old figures just had a ton of really good detail. Obviously, you know, there was still some times where you'd get misprints and whatnot, but the detail on some of these old figures were kind of insane. I mean, look at this. There's so much print work going on, and he's got like the camo and stuff. That's really good. Like they did quite good detail wise for many of these. I mean, look at the camo on his pants. It looks great. So old Articulation definitely had it going in the detail department. In terms of like the molding and whatnot, it was a weird mix of like sometimes the detail was really sharp and sometimes it was really soft, but for the most part it was still really good. Like we got some nice sharp detail here, and then we've got lots of molded detail on this dude. He's got a bit of a wash and like subtle print on his face. So yeah, old Articulation really had it going in the detail department. They don't want to stand up though. They're not so easy to stand up. Dude, just stand up. You have big feet, please. Thank you. Even this Gummy Brute, he's got eyes. They actually printed eyes on him, which that's not really something they do for Gummy figures anymore. I say anymore as if they're still making them. They haven't really done that in a long time. Same with the Elites. The Elites used to have like little printed eyeballs, which was great. That was absolutely fantastic. So those are all really good things. What are some less good things are like the proportions were really weird. Like the Elites are tiny. I know a lot of people complain about like new Articulation scale, but golly, the old Articulation scale was so much worse. I also think that the Elites in general looked pretty bad. Like these mandible mouths are not great. This dude is also a good example, I'm not going to try too much, of what happened for a lot of these where like joints would get frozen. So like that's frozen. This one's really loose. This arm doesn't bend very well. Old Articulation figures were just fragile. They were very fragile. Like you think new Articulation hands are fragile? Old Articulation hands were so much worse. And almost every ball joint was at risk of snapping. So you could have his head snap off randomly, shoulders snap off randomly. Less so for the waist, but I know it's still possible. So yeah, there was a lot of fragile stuff going on. So yeah, very fragile. And then for like the Brutes and stuff, I mean, the Brutes are also tiny. Well, here's a normal ODST. Look at that. Brutes are tiny and they're so fat. They're so fat that they can't move their legs very much. And this is pretty common. Like most of the Brutes were this way. This is the same mold. So that was a bit of a downside. The Grunts were hilarious. I mean, like, look how small they are. But talk about fragile. Like, it is thin twigs, these arms. And then the head as well. It's like you breathe on this guy wrong, and he is nothing but a pile of broken bits. This dude is probably one of my favorite old Articulation figures that I own. This one and the ODST, but I don't mess with them that much because again, they're very fragile in many cases. So hopefully that's a somewhat concise breakdown. I don't know. This video is kind of a rambly video. I'm just kind of thinking as I look at these figures. This guy is really nice looking though. There was one other thing that I absolutely love about old Articulation figures, and that is the very first ones came with the most stupidly oversized weapons. It's amazing. I mean, look at this. This shotgun. This shotgun is the size of a figure. That is stupid, but it's stupid in the absolute best way possible. Like, this accessory is one of my favorite Halo Mega accessories. And then we have this massive SMG as well. The SMG is as big as his torso and head put together. It's hilarious. I love that they did this. There was even a render for like an old giant battle rifle that I don't think was ever actually released. But yeah, these are two of my favorite Halo accessories. They're just so funny to me. And here I have a selection of new Articulation figures, which again, really doesn't encompass everything that Mega has done with new Articulation. I just wanted to get a handful of them to just kind of show off the various levels of detail that they did. I mean, first of all, obviously we got the better Articulation, which brought with it more sturdy shoulder joints. Like, these shoulder joints are very hard to break. I've never ever seen one break. So automatically that's a plus, because you don't have to worry about parts breaking there. Obviously you can still break the neck if you want, but this is one of the least detailed figures. You know, obviously there are some that are almost monochrome Spartans, but this is a pretty standard. This came in both a set and a blind bag, just the way it is here. We got the different colors of armor. The only real print is on the face, but the details are really sharp. It's a great figure. No wash. That's not something that Mega did a whole ton with new Articulation. We'll talk about that in a second. But that's a great example of a lower detail figure. And then as Mega went on, they started getting really good at doing these like minimal detail figures while also keeping very high detail. So we've got, this is the Warthog Rescue Jerome, and we've got the stripe there, but then there's a tiny little UNSC print. They did the print on his shoulder. And then the head looks really good because we got the print there and there. It's kind of a, I don't know how accurate this is, but I feel like it's more often that the newer style figures were misprinted than the old ones. Like, at least in terms of big misprints, but maybe that's just me. I've seen more of the new Articulation figures, so I have more context there. And then we've got figures like this. This is a standard set figure, one of the best visors I've ever seen. And he's got the camo print, which is awesome. And again, it's a mix of like low detail and high detail. Obviously, he doesn't have print on every facet, every surface, but he still looks really good. And then we have the super high detail figures like the one from Multiplayer Mayhem. This is well, it's kind of a pop and swap, but this is a Neon Superfly figure. And I mean, look at this. There's so many tiny little details. And I think this is more, there's not much around the back, but this is, I think, more fine detail than most old Articulation figures. And as Mega was going on, which is part of why I'm so sad that they kind of ramped down, at least for the time being, their printing was getting better and better. They were clearly experimenting with newer ways of doing things because like the details were getting finer and finer and more consistently just well done. So this is, I feel like, a really good example of what they can do now. And then obviously the elites got a bit bigger. This is a blind bag figure, which is great. Like, this is shocking that's a blind bag figure because of all the print on the chest and the helmet. But yeah, when you see him next to a human, obviously he's not properly sized still, but he is bigger. He is much bigger than the original elites, which was a big deal. It's more proportionate. And the Brute's got a bit bigger. This is a visor Brute from the ODST, was it ODST Brute Skirmish? Is that what it's called? No, ODST Ambush. Anyway, it's the Dollar General pack. So Brutes and elites, general same height now. Obviously, they are still on the small side. They didn't get them exact, but compared to the older Brutes, you know, actually not too much bigger. They're just more proportionate. Like, this Brute looks like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, whereas this guy looks a bit more menacing. And he's more posable because you can get his leg up way high.
And then we did still get figures with washes. It wasn't super common. There were a few Halo Heroes ones. This is one of my favorites. This is from the Master Chief Collection STCC set. Almost every figure in that set either had a wash or like dry brushing. And this just looks really good. This is my favorite version of CE Chief. Who knows, maybe we'll get another one come the Combat Evolved remake, but for now, this is my absolute favorite. And the detail is great, the print work is great. It's basically like, I feel, a perfect translation of old Articulation to new Articulation. You know, they've got the same process with the wash and the details, but just in general, the molding is better. And then here's an example of like a dry brushing. This is the Blue Team Master Chief. This is one of my favorite figures. Well, I just really like this Master Chief armor. It's my favorite Master Chief armor. But the dry brushing really does a lot. I don't know that old Articulation really did dry brushing that much, if at all. I don't remember. But new Articulation did from time to time. It always looked pretty good, except for those times when they dunked Blue Team or Fire Team Osiris in it. This Chief happened to come out pretty good, but there was a lot of like over-dunked figures. But I think the fact that this type of effect was somewhat infrequent was kind of a big downside to new Articulation figures. It really makes them look good, but Mega just didn't utilize it as much as possible. I'm assuming to keep, you know, costs down and whatever. And the figures do still look pretty good without it, but they certainly look a lot better with it. So in terms of like cons, I think that's the biggest one is there's less use of washes and whatnot. There's also more chances for like deformation of parts because between, let me grab the other ODST, between the old Articulation and new Articulation, this guy has a lot more parts purely because of the removable armor. So you have a lot more opportunity for something to go wrong as opposed to this fella who just has a small handful of parts. So, I don't know. I still personally am a big fan of new Articulation. I think it's really unique in the space of action figures and Lego stuff. I think that they have a really unique system that makes them stand out from pretty much everything I've ever seen. The size, the level of articulation for the size. It's just something really special. And I don't really understand the trashing of new Articulation over old Articulation. I don't really understand trashing new Articulation. I'm just personally not really a fan of it. I do think it's an inferior system. I think the new system is better overall, but these guys still have a place and a bit of a charm. This is where Mega's system started. They had to evolve from somewhere. I don't want to collect a ton of these ones, but I can appreciate where they came from, and I do like getting a few like this. I love this guy's head. I think it's really well done. So yeah, I don't really understand that, oh, new Articulation is garbage and the old Articulation is the only good one. I don't know, that argument just doesn't really make sense to me. They both have their ups and downs, but overall, I think that new Articulation was a very necessary part of Mega moving forward. I don't think they would have gone as far, to be honest, if they had kept with this particular system. So there you have it. That's a long, rambly look at the pros and cons of new and old Articulation. So now I want to hear, what are your thoughts? What do you think about old Articulation? What do you think about new Articulation? What do you think are the pros and cons? And what do you think of this idea that's weirdly popping up that the new stuff is trash and a symbol of all that Mattel did wrong, and the old stuff is the perfection? Doesn't make sense to me. Maybe one of you guys can make sense of it in the comments. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.